Imagine securing enterprise-grade access to some of the most advanced artificial intelligence on the planet. Now, imagine paying literally less than a candy bar for the whole shebang. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking an unprecedented new federal AI deal that has the entire tech world asking one very simple question. What exactly is the catch? If you want to understand the high-stakes game currently being played between Silicon Valley and Washington, well, you are in the exact right place. We're looking at a contract moving at a pace with absolutely no modern precedent in federal tech procurement. And we're going to use the actual documents and filings to figure out what it all means for the future of AI. Let's jump right in. 42 cents. That is the actual confirmed price per agency for the US government to access XAI's cutting-edge models. It's a shockingly tiny number when you think about the massive amount of computational power we're talking about here. So what exactly is the government getting for their pocket change? The U.S. General Services Administration recently signed an 18-month OneGov agreement with XAI. This deal runs straight through March 2027, which makes it the longest-running federal AI contract to date. But here's the thing, this isn't just basic software access. For 42 cents, federal agencies are getting Grok 4 and Grok 4 Fast. Plus, XAI is committing a dedicated engineering team to help deploy Grok across government systems, right alongside comprehensive agency training programs. Now, what's truly fascinating is how the government is actually positioning this rapid procurement. Josh Grunbaum, the head of the Federal Acquisition Service, stated that this widespread access is essential to building an efficient government and fulfilling President Trump's promise to win the global AI race. So it's a very clear signal that modernizing government tech infrastructure with top-tier AI is now a massive federal priority. And Grok isn't alone here. Companies like Meta, OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic have all recently secured major government contracts of their own. But we absolutely have to ask the obvious question. Why on earth would a cutting-edge company agree to an 18-month price point of just 42 cents? The compute costs alone to train and run these models are astronomical. I mean, no commercial enterprise could ever sustain this kind of pricing model in the private sector. So what is the real currency changing hands here?
Part 1. Buying Government AI Mindshare.
The crucial point to understand is that this incredibly low price is a strategic loss leader. XAI isn't trying to make money off this immediate contract. They are actively buying government mindshare. The bet is actually pretty simple. If Grok becomes the default workflow tool for federal workers across multiple agencies, it creates an invaluable reference customer base. Think about it. If the US government relies on your system, well, every other enterprise out there will trust it. Furthermore, it generates this deep political cover and institutional lock-in that is worth far, far more than whatever standard contract revenue they would have generated otherwise. Moving on to Part 2, the new frontier model rules. To truly grasp the scale of these federal AI partnerships, we have to look at the government's aggressive new shift toward oversight. The regulatory landscape is changing literally just as fast as the technology itself. Recently, a new executive order launched a classified benchmarking process to identify the most advanced technology, creating this entirely new designation called Covered Frontier Models. And what's critical here is that a group of agencies, including the Treasury, CISA, and the NSA, will establish a classified benchmarking process to determine which models fit this category. Ultimately, the NSA will have the final say on which models meet this critical threshold. And this builds into a completely new development pipeline. The executive order directs the creation of a voluntary framework that has massive implications. Developers of these covered models are encouraged to engage the government early and, crucially, to provide the federal government with access up to 30 days before they even release these models to the public. The government then collaborates with developers to select other trusted partners for early access, aiming to strengthen critical infrastructure cybersecurity. So, for the very first time, the federal government is inserting itself directly into the AI development pipeline pre-launch. Which brings us to Part 3, government stakes in AI. If early access and 42-cent deals weren't enough, there is another fascinating development taking shape in Washington right now. While no formal agreement exists just yet, senior Trump administration officials have held preliminary discussions with major AI firms about potential government equity stakes. In fact, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman privately pitched the concept to the White House, and President Trump recently called the concept of a government partnership in this revolution a beautiful thing. It is a truly unprecedented blurring of the lines between private tech innovation and federal ownership. Let's look at Part 4, the hidden contract risks. Now, these deep government partnerships, they come with some serious legal catches.
These are perfectly detailed and recent SEC filings from federal contractors, like the quantum computing firm Quantinuum. While the benefits of federal adoption, the funding, the ultimate reference customers, and political cover, are undeniably huge, the legal and strategic risks are profound. When you contract with the government, especially in a high-profile industry involving national security, your agreements can simply be modified, challenged, or completely voided by future administrations. You're subject to changing legislative priorities and the unique defenses that are available only to the federal government.
Also, federal funding isn't just handed over on day one in some giant novelty check. It's often dispersed in strict phases, subject to highly specific business milestones over a period of years. And, as the filings warn, any failure to meet these milestones on the expected timeline or any misunderstanding of the evolving, complex national security guardrails, well, that can trigger severe financial clawbacks, suspension, or termination of the funding entirely. And then there is this concept that is frankly shocking to most commercial businesses: march-in rights. If you develop technology with government funding, the US government has the right, under certain circumstances, to literally force you to share your intellectual property. If they decide you haven't taken adequate steps to commercialize it, or if it's deemed necessary for public health, safety, or public use, they can mandate that you grant licenses to a third party. This could be on totally unfavorable terms, and there is no guarantee you'll even be compensated for it. Beyond march-in rights, partnering with the government means accepting some really comprehensive restrictions. We're talking about giving the government a non-exclusive, irrevocable, paid-up license to use your patentable inventions for government purposes. We're also talking about strict requirements that restrict ownership of your underlying intellectual property to U.S. companies for 10 full years. And of course, strict bans on selling, transferring, or licensing your IP to foreign entities of concern. This federal interest could heavily limit a company's ability to commercialize, protect, or even use its proprietary tech as collateral for future financing.
Finally, Part 5. Who owns AI's future?
As we survey this rapidly evolving landscape, from those 42-cent mega contracts to the 30-day NSA review periods, all the way to IP clawbacks, we really have to step back and look at the big picture. Who will ultimately dictate the future of AI? Will it be the private innovators building these massive models in Silicon Valley, or the federal government holding the regulatory and financial guardrails in Washington? It is a very delicate, completely unprecedented balance of power. Thank you so much for joining this explainer, and as always, we encourage you to keep questioning the fine print.